I was forced to sit alone at my son's wedding. Then a stranger said, "Act like you're with me." The first sign that something was wrong came before I even reached my seat. It was the way the usher avoided my eyes. He looked down at his clipboard, then back up at me, confusion flickering across his face. He checked the list once, twice, then swallowed. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said quietly. "Your name isn't with the family section." The words didn't register at first. Family section. I smiled politely. "I'm the groom's mother." The usher hesitated, then cleared his throat. "Yes, ma'am, you've been placed over there." He gestured toward the back corner of the ballroom, far from the front, far from the aisle, far from the long white table draped in silk where parents usually sat. I followed his hand with my eyes. A single chair. By itself. That's when my heart sank. Before the wedding. My son, Daniel, was my miracle child. I had him late in life, after years of thinking motherhood simply wasn't meant for me. His father left when Daniel was 6, and from that moment on, it was just the two of us against the world. I worked double shifts, skipped vacations, learned how to fix leaking taps and broken doors because there was no one else to do it. I packed his lunches with little notes until he was embarrassed by them. I sat in the front row of every school play, even the terrible ones. I believed that love, real love, meant showing up. So when Daniel told me he was getting married, I cried tears of joy. When he introduced me to his fiancée, Melissa, I told myself to keep an open heart. She was beautiful, polished, from a wealthy family. Her parents lived in a gated community and talked about wine the way I talked about groceries. She was polite but distant, always smiling, never warm. Still, I tried. I offered help with the wedding. She declined. I offered to pay for the rehearsal dinner. She said her parents had it covered. I offered opinions. She smiled tightly and said, "We've already decided." Daniel grew quieter with time. But I told myself it was normal. Weddings are stressful. Mothers worry too much. I never imagined this. The seating. As I walked toward that lonely chair, every step felt heavier than the last. People whispered. Some looked at me with sympathy, others with curiosity. The bride's parents sat proudly in the front row, flanked by siblings, cousins, and friends. Melissa's mother wore pearls and held her husband's hand. Daniel stood at the altar, laughing with his best man. He didn't look back. No one stopped me. No one questioned why the groom's mother was being placed like an afterthought. I sat down slowly, smoothing my dress, pretending my hands weren't shaking. I told myself not to cry. But the chair beside me remained empty. And the space beside me felt louder than the music. The whisper, "Act like you're with me." I flinched. A man had slipped into the empty chair next to mine without a sound. He was tall, silver-haired, wearing a tailored suit that looked expensive but worn, like it had lived a life. His voice was calm, low, steady. "I beg your pardon," I whispered. He leaned closer, eyes forward. "People don't treat you as invisible if they think someone important is sitting with you." I let out a small, humorless laugh. "I don't think that matters today." He glanced at me then, really looked at me, and his expression softened. "It matters more than you think." I hesitated, then nodded. He rested his arm casually along the back of my chair. And just like that, people noticed. A shift in the room. Whispers changed tone. Heads turned. The usher looked confused. Melissa's mother frowned. Someone leaned over to ask, "Who is that man with her?" For the first time since I arrived, I wasn't alone. When the music swelled and Melissa walked down the aisle, radiant and glowing, Daniel finally turned. His eyes found mine, then shifted to the man beside me. His smile faltered. Confusion crossed his face. Then something else. Guilt. The stranger. During the reception, the stranger introduced himself. "My name's Henry," he said, extending his hand, And you are. Claire, I replied. What brings you here, Claire? I smiled sadly. My son's wedding, apparently not as a guest of honor. Henry nodded slowly. I see. We talked over dinner. He listened. Really listened. I told him about raising Daniel alone, about how I sold my jewelry to help him through college, about how I stayed quiet when Melissa's family made little comments about backgrounds and standards. Henry didn't interrupt. When I finished, he said, "You know, my daughter did something similar once." I looked at him. She let someone convince her that love should be hidden if it doesn't look impressive enough. What happened? I asked. She learned, he said gently, but it took losing something precious. The toast. Then came the moment that changed everything. The MC announced a surprise toast. Henry stood. The room quieted instantly. I hadn't planned to speak, he began, his voice carrying effortlessly, but I believe some moments demand honesty. Daniel stiffened. Melissa glanced nervously at her parents. Henry continued, "Today is about love, and love doesn't begin at the altar. It begins in the quiet sacrifices no one applauds." He turned toward me. "I want to acknowledge a woman who raised a good man, alone, with dignity, without recognition." The room went still. Daniel's face went pale. Henry raised his glass. "To Claire, the kind of mother whose love deserves a front row seat in life." Applause erupted. Some people stood. Melissa's mother didn't clap. Aftermath. Daniel came to me later that night. His eyes were wet. "Mom," he whispered, kneeling beside my chair. "I didn't know." I looked at him calmly. "You didn't ask." He swallowed hard. "I was trying to keep peace." "And in doing so," I said softly, "you broke mine." Melissa stood behind him, silent. For once, she had nothing to say. The stranger's truth. As the night wound down, I thanked Henry. "You didn't have to do that," I said. He smiled. "I did, because once someone did it for me." Before leaving, he added, "You're not invisible, Claire. Don't ever sit where you're told you don't belong." The moral. I went home that night alone, but lighter. Some lessons arrive late. Some truths reveal themselves in public. And some strangers appear exactly when you need them most.